millage rate, TSPLOST.
Mm-hmm. Please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And as always, thank you to the veterans and your family. Okay, I'd like a motion to go into the public hearing.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? Okay. Purpose of this public hearing, number one on the agenda is the tax year 2023 millage rate. The city of Statham has tentatively adopted a millage rate which will require an increase in property taxes for the 2023 tax year. The city of Statham anticipates the property tax levies will be set at 4.06 mills. This is an increase of 0.057 over the 2022 millage rate and an increase of 0.795 over the recommended rollback rate. Without this tentative tax increase, the millage rate would be no more than 3.265. The proposed tax increase for a home with a fair market value of $225,000 is approximately $5.13, and the approximate tax increase for a non-homestead property with a fair market value of $300,000 is $6.84. I'm going to ask, and I have some copies here. I'm going to ask our CPA, Rachel Bambury, to speak on this. So, I think there's two there. Yeah.
When we get started, I did not plan to go through the same presentation as I did on the first public hearing, but there are copies available up here to anyone who wants one. What I would like to do at this time is speak to a question that was presented to us because I want to address everybody's concerns and also clarify a couple of points. A situation was presented to us by an individual whose particular property taxes are going to increase by approximately $111 a year. And so I wanted to take this opportunity to analyze that change and just explain it to everybody so that we fully understand what components create that change. So in particular, the situation that was presented, I mentioned there was a $111 increase for the year. I think it's important to remind everybody that the property taxes that we pay is calculated based on two components. One component is the assessed value of a home, which is 40% of the market value of a home. And the second component is the millage rate that we set. So in reference to the property in question, the assessed value of that property did increase. The market value of that property increased approximately $65,000. I'd also like to remind you that the city of Statham does not set those values. Unfortunately, the county tax assessor does set those values, and they have a complicated formula they follow, and there is an appeal process to go through should you think that value is not reasonable for your home. So that being said, the assessed value increased by just over $65,000. The millage rate, and as the mayor just mentioned, is set to increase by 0.057 mils. So what I did was take that $111 that the property is going to increase in property taxes, and I broke out and said, how much of that do we have any discretion or control over? And so the portion of that when we break those two components out, the portion that's attributable of that $111 that's attributable to the change in the property value is $105.39. So approximately 95% of this property's value change is attributable to the property's asset value increasing, right? So the piece that we have control over, being that millage rate, that increase represents about $5.09 per year to this parcel. So 42 cents a month is the increase that we have discretion over in that 0.057 mills that we're increasing from the prior year. So I think it's important to note that, market values are going to fluctuate over time, and we can't necessarily address everybody's individual market rate. We kind of have to look at an average and determine if it's a tolerable increase. And I believe what we have presented here to you is a tolerable increase for what we can control. So I wanted to state those facts. And also the handout that I presented, or that I prepared just quickly before this meeting, maybe an hour ago, so forgive me, it's not pretty. But what I did was compare the millage rate since 2015 to the Consumer Price Index since 2015. And so what you'll notice, that top orange line is the Consumer Price Index. And for anybody that may not know, that is the index that measures the cost of goods and services. So everything from groceries to gas to your things that you buy in your household. So that's the burden that we all have. In addition, the government has that burden of increased costs, right? And you can see the blue line there at the bottom is our millage rate. Now, what we're not comparing is 5.08 to 237. What we're comparing is the change. So you can see CPI increased over this period of 2015 to the year-to-date 2023 by 28%. The city's millage rate has decreased by 19%. So we have created a disparity of 47% between the cost of goods and services we pay for and what we earn for that. So if we were a business, quite frankly, we'd be out of business. So I point that out to say that continuing on that trajectory is just not sustainable. So I think we've presented something that's tolerable. Nobody likes taxes, nobody likes increases. But what I think we prepared is something that's tolerable considering the condition, and I think is in the best interest of the city to protect its financial position and improve it over time. And that's really what I'm here to do and what I'm here to help you do. As another small reminder, our general fund reserves really need to be protected. And embrace, during the budget process, we talked about general fund reserve being at 0.05 for fiscal year 22. We do expect that to grow to just over 1.4 in fiscal year 23. But what that means is that we wouldn't last 18 days if we had a significant event. So I want to make sure we protect ourselves against those things, and this is how we do that. So that was really how I wanted to address kind of our approach to what was presented to you as mayor and council, so that we understand kind of the science behind what we've done and why we've done that. So I'd be happy to answer any questions, but hopefully I've addressed some of the concerns.
My understanding is like the rollback is basically if we did the rollback and based on the new values of the home, that basically puts us right where we've been the past couple of years, which obviously things have increased to run the city, salaries, equipment, gas. So if we kept everything the same, we can't afford to continue a city the way it is.
Correct. You would have to reduce some level of service in order to meet that reduced revenue because those costs are increasing.
Right.
And so if you reduce your revenue, but your cost increases, you've got to reduce some service level to meet that. We do not continue. And just for your information, the rollback would impact the city $100,000. We need to trim out of our next year's budget if we were to do that rollback.
Yeah. Okay.
Pretty impactful.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions for Rachel?
A comment. Thank you, Rachel, for taking the time to explain that. Sometimes it's very complicated to a lot of citizens and us. I know we dealt with that when I was on the school board as well. Same thing. With having to look at the millage rate. So I think we've been very conservative along the way. It's just that goods and services have gone up. And thank you for taking the time to explain that. Pleasure.
Thank you very much. We will have citizen input. I'm gonna move on to the next, which is the TSPLOST Transportation Special Purpose Local Option Sales Tax. This is for a discussion on TSPLOST referendum. The county would like to put this on the ballot this fall. I'm going to say that, to piggyback on what Rachel said, nobody likes more taxes. I guess the upside of what a TSPLOST is, it can only, as far as Statham, it can only be used for our road improvement, which everyone knows we need it. And the other part of that is it's not on your property. It's anyone who travels, lives here or travels through Barrow County by a candy bar. A penny of that goes towards the transportation. If we had public transportation, it could be used for that. There again, all we would need to use it for, or want to use it for, would be for transportation. So with that, I'll open it to discussion with the council members. Mayor.
We had discussed previously at a previous meeting on TSPLOST, just for those that may not have been here. Obviously, it's got to be used for transportation purposes if it was to pass. And there was discussion amongst the council about roads and how detailed on the roads you possibly need to get. I just wanted to remind everyone that if we put a specific road listed on this TSPLOST referendum, then that money definitely would have to go for that specific road. And that could be tough depending upon how much money is coming in to get that detailed, because once that road is mentioned, if there's not enough money to come in to pave that road, then you got a partial project that's not completed. So one of the things that we were talking about was making this a little less detailed in the roads that, in naming specific roads, and make it more broad in using the aspect of road projects, paving and repair and that sort of thing, rather than naming any specific road to put on the ballot. And hopefully what I said makes sense. I know I'm babbling a little bit, but.
Yes, it is recommended that, unless you know exactly how much it would cost you for a specific road, and you know exactly how much this one penny will bring into the state, you would basically hamstring yourself as a city. So the best is what they recommend is you basically say it will be used for various road surfacing and improvements. You know, you could put a couple of small projects that you know that you could commit to, but other than that, they recommend that you kind of keep it a little vague so you can plan your worst projects first.
Hey, just out of the spirit of being open with everybody, I don't know who all was here for the last two of these meetings. The total yearly amount that they predict us getting in Statham is what, 867,000 and some change? Is that, and like and 5 million plus over the course of 5 years. So that's a lot of paving for us.
Yeah, I think the mayor in our last meeting threw out some estimates on Dooleytown running around 400,000 to 500,000, and Atlanta Highway, what was it, 1.3 million?
Yeah.
So yeah, we really need the money.
I think this is a game changer for our city. And so transportation SPLOST is not really a taxation on your property, but something that everybody that comes to Barrow County or comes through Statham or Winder or whatever is helping us to pay for our roads and bridges and those types of things. And we aren't the only city that has holes in the roads. We go down Atlanta Highway and there's big ones in Winder, Auburn. We need to pass this. We had the opportunity several years ago and it did not pass because it was a regional, decision. And now this comes down to Barrow County. We have that for us to make that decision. So I look at this as being something very important and really a game changer for our little city.
Any further comments? Wait. I will open up public here in a second. There's no further discussion by the council. I would then ask if anybody has signed up to speak. Are you on the? Okay. If you would come up, identify yourself and where you live. I don't know if you'll need the microphone or not.
My name is Kay Burnett, and I live in the Upspring subdivision, and I am the vice president of the HOA board. And I'm here today to give an update from the July meeting where we came in and made a request of the council and the mayor to have our roads finally surfaced and to have a stop sign put in and a speed limit sign. So I want to find out if there's been any conversation or if you have any updates you can provide us.
Well, with it being a public hearing, we cannot vote. I would be happy to turn it over to the attorney, the petition that you presented to the council, and everything that you gave to me, I forwarded it to the council. So I'm going to pass the comment to you.
Sure. Mayor, yes, you did forward the petition and the supporting documents to me. And if I may, I'm going to address the council because I know some of the members of the council, this is a new issue to you, but this is not a new issue to me. In fact, we've met with Oak Springs and the HOA before. And so let me explain some of the historical research, and then I'll discuss the present petition. The historical research is this, and I'll speak first in terms of generalities of Georgia law. So Georgia law provides that roads can be adopted by a city or a county government in one of two ways. First is an express acceptance of the dedication, which usually takes the form of a deed or a ordinance, formal ordinance adopting and accepting the dedication of the roads. We have found no record in meeting minutes from the city showing that such an ordinance was ever adopted. That's part one. The second way that a city can accept the dedication is by the recording of a final plat showing the dedication, and then an action by the city council or the city accepting that dedication or acknowledging that they have accepted it. Best example of that is maintenance. You engage in any kind of maintenance on the roads, cutting right of way, resurfacing, patching, those kinds of things. That evidences an acceptance of the dedication. Back when this issue was brought to my attention, and I want to say it was probably in 2021. I have to go back and look, but we met with the HOA, pulled copies of the plats, meeting minutes, all the real estate records. Could not find where an ordinance was adopted. I did see the plat, the final plat, which has been recorded. And then I discussed with our maintenance department and various city officials about whether any maintenance was done. We could find no evidence showing that the city has accepted the dedication of those roads. And so at the time when we met with the HOA, it was the position of the city that we find it truly regrettable that the developer did not do what they said they were going to do, which was to finish those roads. But that unfortunately, because the city had not accepted the dedication, it's not something in order to, improve. From the city's perspective, they would be private roads. The, petition that was submitted, nothing contained in there changes my legal analysis. The plat speaks for itself. The plat evidences an intent to dedicate, but there's no action by the city showing an acceptance of said dedication. And short of that, it would be considered not a city road. And so that's my legal opinion that has been communicated to Oak Springs before, the HOA before, and I don't see anything in the petition that changes that legal analysis.
Well, we don't agree with that.
Not surprising. But
You mentioned that if there was the plat, would you rephrase that or?
no, I'll say it again. So the plat, recording of the plat is an action by the developer saying, I want to dedicate the road to the city. There has to be a second act by the city accepting that dedication. And that act is either the adoption of an ordinance, which didn't happen, or some other conduct showing that we've accepted it, like conducting maintenance, which again, we have not done.
So the mayor would have followed. But they're not following through. The plat shows that it says that the city accepted the dedication.
It does not say that. The mayor Bridges did not sign at that point. If you look at the plat that's actually recorded in the real estate records, it says, the only place where Robert Bridges' signature appears, it says, I'm going to pull it up. I hereby certify the subdivision plat has been found to comply with the regulations. It has been, we have received, it says certificate of receipt of surety for the required improvement has been approved for recording. That's it. If you look at the other side, there's a place where it says, hereby certify that the bond has been approved, and then we accept the dedication. That is unsigned. So, there's nothing on this plat that indicates that the roads were accepted. And that's the position of the city. Or, that is my legal analysis. We can find no evidence that any bonds were paid, deposited, accepted by the city. We can find no bond agreements. And again, I want to stress, the meeting we had with the HOA previously, this was communicated, and we expressed frustration that, and this predates pretty much everybody on council, that prior administrations did not get the bonds and did not see this through to completion. But unfortunately, that was a mistake that was made, and we've done what we can to correct that going forward with other developments, but history is what it is, unfortunately.
Did you not say, though, that these fine folks up here can vote to accept the plat and to accept the street?
I would argue that they can't, because as a condition to accepting said streets, the streets have to be brought up to certain minimum standards. Our code says that city can vote to accept so long as the roads are brought to a certain condition. So they need to be brought to the condition before the city can vote.
Don't you have some duty to warn before people buy houses that you fail to get the bond?
No, the city does not have any duty to warn under the law.
So we're all victims of fraud between the developer and the mayor. I was actually reached out to the developer day before yesterday, and he says emphatically that the roads were accepted by the city.
I can
Now,
find.
the fact that you can't find something about that, and the fact that there has been mismanagement of records throughout the years, how could we prove?
I don't believe that there has been mismanagement of records. I found no evidence of any mismanagement of records. All the city can go on is what the city has. The city has no record, and we have the meeting minutes where this was voted on, the plat was voted on. We have the financial records showing when money came in the door and did not come in the door. We can find no record of any of that happening.
Why are we paying city taxes if we're not going to take care of it? Why should we pay city taxes for not getting anything? And raise.
The obligation to pay city taxes is not contingent upon getting a specific benefit out of it. Simple as that. People who live on private roads pay city taxes all the time. That's the legal answer. I don't mean it to be curt or to be flippant. That is the legal answer.
Is there actually no recourse? I mean, is there nothing this council can do to help us out?
Unfortunately, without a maintenance bond agreement, no. Legally, I don't think the city has any claim against the developer. Now, the developer may have some duties to the property owners, but the city does not have any legal recourse to go after the developer for, not bringing the roads up to the standards they were supposed to bring them up to before they left. And again, I want to stress that the city expressed its own frustration at the meeting with the HOA previously.
Well, your frustration doesn't help our situation.
I know that's a little solace and a little,
No solace.
yeah, you're right, but effectively no solace, I get that. But at the same time, all I can do is answer the legal question, and that's the answer that I find based upon the facts that we have that are in front of us.
And there's no other situation that's ever existed in this city that was overcome in a different way.
Not in the time that I've been city attorney that I'm aware of.
Okay. So if other attorneys don't agree with you, how does that affect us?
I'm sure if every attorney agrees, then all attorneys would be unemployed.
Well, we have sought advice from attorneys who say that these roads do belong to the city. So, I mean, I guess we just need to do some further homework because, we're going to prove one way or another that these streets belong to the city of Statham, and the city of Statham needs to take care of it.
If y'all have engaged an attorney and they want to speak with me, I'm happy to speak with them.
I have the same deal. Can I ask a question? You got me all right?
We just sign it.
Sure.
So that we have a record. That's all I have. And, just for the record, it was approved in 2008. And as the council stated, before this council came into being.
You made a statement there a while ago that the developer, this may not be exactly the way you worded it, that the developer failed to do what the city requested him to do. Remarking about finishing the streets.
So what I mean by that is the Statham development regulations, including the ones that were in effect back then, required that the roads be brought up to a certain standard, and they were not. So
He understood that. I mean,
conceivably, I don't know.
okay,
I
but,
assume so.
okay, but wouldn't the city have any recourse to require him since he understood that, or that was required at the time?
So this was actually discussed at that very meeting where I met with the HOA. In theory, if those roads are not owned by the city, they are owned by someone.
Right.
And so they would be owned by the LLC that was created by that developer to develop the neighborhood. Based on our research, that's a single-purpose LLC. It was created solely to develop this one piece of property. So we could issue a citation, but then that's an LLC that is.
That LLC is dissolved.
Exactly. And so there's no real recourse. There's nothing there that we can do. It's not like we can go after the LLC.
Well, it doesn't, I mean, to me, it doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, we don't know the lawyer end of all this. We're just citizens. But it doesn't make any sense that the city would hang its own citizens out to dry, so to speak, and let that happen. So if the expectation of the developer was from the city conveyed to him, and it wasn't enforced, obviously, I guess, I'm assuming that, why would the city do that?
I don't know. You'd have to ask the individuals involved, and none of them, I think, are here at the moment.
Well, if the action was taken I think it was signed in 2016, and I believe the developer finished out, top of my head, maybe 21, I believe, finished out. So I'm just wondering why does, I mean, you were the mayor at that time. Why wouldn't that be followed up on? The requirement, it may not have been a written requirement, there may not have been a assured bond required. I'm assuming that, right? There was not one required?
So, no, there should have been a surety bond, but it was not collected in 16, like you were supposed, like I suppose it was supposed to have been. The answer to your question, though, is the city wouldn't have had a mechanism by which to know that there was a problem until such time as the developer would come to the city and say, okay, I'm done, it's time for y'all to accept the roads. And we would have gone out there and said, we can't accept these in this condition, you need to do X, Y, and Z. That obviously never happened because the developer was gone.
Okay, but it was still the city, but isn't the city ongoing responsible regardless
No.
of the administration?
I'll go ahead and stop there. No, the city does not go out there and conduct regular maintenance updates in real time, especially with respect to developments that are under construction. The city goes out and inspects when an action is necessary. So for example, if there is a home under construction, then yes, we're going to continue to do inspections to make sure it's being brought to code. And then when it's time to sell, we have to go and inspect to a CO. With respect to roads and infrastructure, the final point when that happens is when the developer comes to the city to finalize the dedication. That never took place. So, no, we would never have been alerted to any of this prior.
Okay, but when I said responsibility, I'm talking about responsibility to hold the developer, his feet to the fire, so to speak, or the responsibility, the legal responsibility to carry on regardless of the administration.
Well, you're still running into the same problem. You're talking about the developer as a person. The developer is not a person. The developer is an LLC.
Okay, I get it.
And so, again, same problem, we can continue to go around in circles, where the rubber meets the road is going after the LLC, which, as you all pointed out, is a dissolved LLC. There's really no recourse there.
So what would be the city's long-term view or action concerning Oak Springs subdivision?
If Oak Springs can bring the road up to the level required by the code, it would be eligible for acceptance.
Okay, you understand there's only 65 homes in there. There is no way in the world that 65 homes can pay for whatever it costs.
$304,000.
300 grand. I mean, that's irresponsible, in my opinion. I mean, and I understand.
The law, I can't change what the facts are and what the law is.
That makes no sense to anybody at this end of this spectrum here, as far as being left hung out to dry. Basically, that's what it is, as citizens. Most of us, not all of us, but most of us moved here because we like the city of Statham, what it represented, but leaves a sour taste in your mouth, and I think you can understand that. But again, what we're hearing, legally, the city says it's your baby. If you want these roads to become property of the city of Statham, we have to spend the $300,000 to bring it up to what you say are standard. Now, if we compare our roads to so many of them within the city, our road's probably about as equal. So what's the standard? I mean, you're not gonna hold your own to the standard, but you're gonna hold us to that standard. See, that's kind of a mixed message.
But those, again, I can't opine as to when other roads were dedicated, except in circumstances when that happened. The regulations that were in place at the time those were accepted. So you can't, it's not an apples to apples comparison until you investigate all the details associated with those other roads.
Well, that's all I got to say.
Okay, so I have a question. I'll sign in. I'm on the board. I'm Diane Scott. The special tax district is another way. Towns make mistakes. That's why there is a special tax district. We fill that out. We offered it to you. It was very poorly written legally. You've changed it since then. That is us paying, but over like
like a 10-year period through your mortgage. Totally different than, oh, you owe $300,000 in 1 year, 1 month, 1 day. So why was that turned down? Why was that? And the answer was, because the road's not dedicated. That was the answer. Yes, it was.
She's right.
Thank you.
That is the correct answer. You cannot use tax dollars on a private road.
That's not what we asked to do.
That's
No.
creation of a tax district
It's with,
collects tax money, and that tax money cannot be used on private roads.
I talked to the city of, there were many municipalities that I spoke to. They've all done this because, again, builders make mistakes, municipalities make mistakes. It's even in the, government of the state of Georgia, they mention a special tax district, and that is what it's for, to fix errors. So it's very convoluted to say, oh, well, we can't do it because the street's not dedicated. I mean, you're gonna use that as an answer to everything, and that's, you can hide behind that, but it doesn't fool us.
City of Rasmussen did it for 3 neighborhoods.
Thank you. And she's the one that sort of, and I did all the research, so. I need to sign off on it.
Frank, if you remember, you came to me my first couple months in office.
Yes, sir.
You and I rode around the golf cart, you showed me the different things.
Yes, sir.
And I told you then that I would check into it. And I was willing to, but legally couldn't. So we set up a meeting with the counselor, and we had 8 or 10 members of
I was
your
there.
HOA that was there. But we went over the final plat, we talked about all the ins and outs, and I said, let me reach out to the developer. And I called him personally. He said, I have, and this is him saying to me, quote, I have 2 more homes to finish. When they go to closing, I'm out of state. And I got back to you and I told you, this is what he said, and he said, what is our recourse? So we sat down with the counselor. And I've been involved with this from the get-go since I've been in, but I have to follow the legal guidelines. And, so I have to trust that the city attorney is doing his job. But you and I talked about these. We pointed out the problems of how, the road surface is a level 1, we'll call it, and it didn't come up to the curbing like it should, and it's going to continue to deteriorate. And we pointed out that the developer did not pay Georgia Power. I went to Georgia Power and I said, is there any way that we can get a forgiveness and get them light for these 15 power poles? They said they're still owed the money for running the electric. The developer never paid them, the builders never paid them, so therefore they would not place the light poles. And I believe it set up that the city would pay the $10 a month per pole electric bill. So I tried working with you all, trying to come up with an answer that is amicable, and at no time have I been malicious in my approach to anyone in your development. So I'm trying to be honest here, and I know you probably remember most of these conversations.
The part that you said, I have no recollection about when you were talking about, with Matt Richardson and that conversation that you had with him. I have no recollection of that, and I'm not disputing what you're saying. I'm saying I don't remember that. Concerning, that conversation you just said you had. I don't remember that part.
They had 2 more homes that were built and needed to sell. One, he had a little finish work to do. And that was his work. When those homes are settled and sold, and I think July 2nd was the target date for those to go to closing. He said, I'm out of state. But, I've lined up conversations with the attorney. We tried to give you answers. And as I
but you can certainly understand our position as residents and homeowners here, that we can't just roll over except the way it is. First of all, financially, there's just no way. And if that doesn't get done, those roads are only gonna get worse and worse and worse. And that means depleted value, people are gonna sell their homes and live. And, you know, regardless of legal opinions, that still makes no sense for the citizens of Statham to have to bite the bullet. You know, where's the understanding, and I'm just speaking to you and me, the compassion and understanding and trying to do the right thing for the citizens of Statham. That's hard to swallow. It's like, you folks moved here, yeah, you say with good intentions and all of this because you like the area. Well, we didn't understand the gravity of where we were as far as being held responsible for roads until really on down the road at some point. Nobody knew, moving in, had no idea. And then it all started coming together. The developer said it was the city. He was telling us all along that we were asking. The city's gonna take care of it. Well, then, that's kind of what we were going with. And then we started reaching out after we realized something's not right here. And, so we started having a conversation, and the city was saying, no, we're not responsible. So then, you know, it all started coming together. Nobody's gonna take responsibility here, and we didn't sign up for this. So,
We were several of us that were on the HOA board at the time, were in the meeting where Ms. Campbell told us this about the plat and what have you. But I don't recall, and I don't know if any of you recall, anything about you telling us that Mount Richardson had 2 more houses to finish in there. And if the city knew that they had not gotten a bond from him, and they knew that he was gonna be in there long enough to finish 2 houses, why couldn't they have gotten a bond then?
When you only had 2 more houses,
That's what you said.
the bond is the leverage. The bond was never, there was no bond money, no surety,
Right.
nothing ever collected.
But is there a time limit in which you can get a bond from him?
Generally, the final plat is approved.
Normally, as a condition to approval of the final plat, that's when we collect the bond. At that point. Now, honestly, the better was to collect the bond with a preliminary plan. But obviously that didn't happen. And the last chance was final plat approval, but that didn't happen.
So, Mr. Campbell, why is Bradford back to special tax district?
I can't, so every city, or special tax districts are creatures of ordinance, and every single city's ordinances are different. I can't speak to, I can't opine upon what other cities' ordinances say. I know what ours does, and I'm confident that on my read of our ordinance. So the fact that other cities have done something or haven't done something, I don't know, but I know that we do not follow the same rules they do.
So, because you have no interest in helping fix anything.
I don't, please don't, no. Y'all are inferring, and you are imposing upon me a callous disregard and a desire to not help you. That's not accurate. That's not my job. My job is to tell the city legally what is the reality. And I've expressed again, we've had instances where subdivisions have to be approved, and we require surety bonds now. We make sure of it. We make sure that no one's there.
Thanks to us.
No.
No, really, because that's when it started, was after
They found out that there wasn't.
We were requiring surety bonds in 2020 before Oak Springs became on my radar. Point being, I can only deal with problems that come to me, so please, with all due respect, I don't appreciate you saying I'm trying to avoid. It's not my place, it's not my job.
It's just,
It's not.
can we change the ordinance? We vote to have ordinance change.
Citizens
Where
are-
it can help.
Yeah, because
Well,
That's a council decision.
first of all, I'm sorry, nobody's trying to,
I disagree. I
I
respect
am-
but
what-
that's
I am
okay,
so.
that's okay.
I
I mean, I think you can understand.
I do.
Okay,
Certainly.
but don't get your feathers ruffled. And
One at a time.
just keep it, down. But, let me make a point here before you say that. You mentioned that there was surety bonds required prior to our subdivision?
My understanding is that there should have been surety bonds required.
Well, wait a minute, was there any, is there a record?
There is no record of a surety bond being paid.
Required prior to our subdivision?
Oh, in the town.
I'm talking about other subdivisions.
That I don't know. I've not looked into any other subdivision.
Well, I would like a record request to see if there was any surety bond required prior to our subdivision. That would be precedent.
Well,
If the city required one prior to ours, there should be no reason why they would not have required one for ours.
so I'll go ahead and I'll jump to the conclusion, I think. The plat itself says certificate of receipt of surety for required improvement. So, there's evidence that there should have been a surety bond paid.
Yeah, what,
And there was. So I think you're asking the wrong question. I don't think anybody in the city disputes a surety bond should have been paid. It wasn't.
But that's not our fault, that's the city's fault for not.
So that's all these surety.
Now, could the city have requested a surety bond up to the point in time that Matt Richardson left the subdivision?
Surety bond could have been requested at any time.
Okay, so the city failed to do that.
well, okay, Mayor, that's a question for you. You were aware of all this when you came in, surely. Why was a surety bond not required of Matt Richardson before he left the subdivision?
My first knowledge was when I met with you. That's when I found out about that whole mess. And I told you I would work with you to try and get you the answer.
Okay, Mayor, listen, I mean, I understand what you're saying,
And I did call him and ask him about doing the roads because they're not up to standard.
okay, at that,
And the light poles, and he said, those two settled, July 2nd, I'm out of here.
So in other words, he said he wasn't gonna do it. And you didn't ask for a surety bond at that point?
I asked him if he was gonna do the road system and put the lights in and pay George Power.
And you're saying his
And
answer
then,
was
no,
that he was gonna leave after he finished those two
and
houses?
he did.
well, there's no,
But you had the opportunity to get a surety bond then. Is that not correct, Mr. Chairman?
I mean, there was no, all I can say is there was no request made, no request bond.
there could have been a request.
Sure.
All right.
Hey, Gary, my question is, if the city would have went to the developer that time and found out that we was not going to ask for surety bond, and, what could the city have done as far as enforcing it to make sure that surety bond was enforced?
So I don't know, what I don't know is the condition of the properties. There was discussion about two being left over, or two remaining.
Would they would only have kept them for?
Yeah, that's it, those last two.
So,
Getting a CO for those last two, that's the only leverage the city would have
could
had.
he still would have just left you saying, hey, I'm not going to take one out?
And to be honest with you, I'm not even entirely sure we could have, at that point, again, it all depends upon where in the development process of those last two homes there were. At a certain point, a builder gets vested right to a CO, independent of the developer, the status of the development. So, I'd have to look into that, it's a very nuanced question. But the point being, at that point, there would be very, very little leverage again. There'd be very little, anything punitively that we could do to prevent them from just finishing and moving on.
Sir, identify yourself, please.
Mayor, City Council, Mr. Campbell. My name's Adrian Noel. I'm a resident there too. You know, well, I've said, and Kay, a few others, it's all true. We're not here to lie to you. We're not here to beg you to do something for us that's not possible. We're just here to find out, Mr. Mayor, what can you do? What powers do you have? Do you have the power to say, you know what, I want to do the right thing? It's a mess, and it's becoming now a problem of safety. It's a problem of safety where the roads are safety. There's no stop sign. There's no lighting. That's a big concern. And to you, Mr. Campbell, what is the responsibility for the city for problems with safety if they don't, we're not recognized? Is the no?
No, private resident.
So we're private residents. So does that mean that we could become, I don't know, maybe part of Barrow County, and not have to pay taxes?
You'd have to yeah.
You'd have to approve that.
It's maybe something to look into. What about waste problem? Can you go after them and help out with the roads? They ruined it pretty much. They came out, as you said, several times. And I asked them,
Three times they came out to.
and they have been good. They're not complete. It's still going down. As it goes down, it's deteriorating more. We're not asking for a lot. We're just mostly retired people that live there, just trying to do the right thing by coming here and talking to you like other human beings. We don't have anything to put against you guys, but we just want to know what your powers are. If you have the power as mayor, say, okay, let's stop going around in circles. Let's stop pointing fingers. Let's take care of this. If you have that power, please do it. Find the money. Get a little bit here, a little bit there. Wherever we can. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
I have one last question, I believe, if I can ask. The builder had to come to the city to get permits for each separate lot, is that correct? Okay. Could I ask what the cost to the builder was for each permit?
I would have to find out. I can't answer that. And he could have pulled 15 at one time and paid. Not, they generally don't do one and bill it, one and bill it. At that time, they pay for the water tap, and they pay for sewer tap, and then whatever the permit is. That permit fee, I can say went up, but I don't know how many was pulled then. If you would like to do an open record request, I'm sure we will find out how many permits were pulled and when they were pulled.
That's nothing that we can ask to have done. We would actually have to get online and request that. I mean,
You could come up and fill out, or you could go online under other, and then it will go to my staff, and they will work together. Primary responsibility is patient, but in some things you can request help with to pull those kinds of records.
The reason I asked that question is my understanding concerning the builder, Husfeld, Greg Husfeld, was he paid around $7,000 per lot. That's over $500,000. Just for permits. So I don't know if that's correct or not, but maybe we can do that request and get those, and just to see what that figure looks like.
And by the way, the permit, whatever the fee is, it basically covers the inspection that go with that. City does not make money, has never made money on permits. It pays for each level of that development or that builder, on those particular homes. They have to come out and inspect the slab, and then they do so much to get clearance, then they have to do the plumbing, and then they have to come out and inspect the electric. So during the course of that house being built, the inspectors may be out there a dozen times. So the fee that builder pays the city, because the city pays for the inspection. So it's a reimbursement. For instance, we subcontract with Jerry Weiss for planning and zoning. If you want to do a pre-planning meeting, it's $75 per half hour. So the maximum we generally charge is 3 half hours. Jerry charges travel to and from plus the time. So our bill for Jerry might be $550, and what we collected for that pre-planning was $350. So it costs the city money to do that. I'm just giving an example. So would be happy to fill your request. Just want, to know up front that to say, well, the city made $500,000, but we can also look at what it cost us, which might have been $600,000 in the inspection fee.
Roads are not inspected, though, that's correct?
Well, they will do core samples, which we did bring in 2 companies to do core samples for you, and the city paid for those core samples to tell you the condition of the road and what it would take to bring it up to road standards. Okay? I don't remember how much that was.
It's about $5,000.
How much?
It's about $5,000.
Yeah, but I was going to guesstimate that it was about $5,000 that the city paid on your behalf. And I'm trying to be sympathetic to, I wouldn't want to be in your shoes, okay? My wife and I bought a place that's flat and thought, we'll never have water problems. But we're the lowest spot in 8 properties, and her and I spent last 2 years ago $12,000 out of our property to redirect the flood waters that come from the 8 properties so that we can use our toilets because we're on the septic system. But we bought it. Buyer beware. We bought it. We accepted it, and for years when we got flooded, I don't know what happened today. With the downpour today, anything over 2 inches in an hour, we're in deep trouble. Even with the landscaping, $12,000 in landscaping. But we accepted it as homework. It doesn't help your cause. It doesn't soothe your raw nerves. I just want to explain that when you buy someplace, and we bought here in 2016 when it was a drought, 2 years later we had some of the most awful monsoons that you could imagine. So I'm trying to work with it.
I'd like to ask one more question. You said there was many inspections that you paid real good money to have done. Why are some of these homes having so many problems if they're inspected correctly? I mean, we have had, there's concrete, there's another, one home that I can think of, that the floor's not level in it now. Nothing was compacted, it was just thrown in, built up, maybe on a bulldozer over a couple of times, collapsed. You know, I think he got ripped off. I hate to say it. He got ripped off. I think you got ripped off with your inspectors. They didn't do a real good job. You didn't see what the quality or the non-quality of the concrete was, or the quality or the non-quality of the paint they put on the house. I guarantee you probably about half of the people in there had 3 painters. That's not quality. Inside the game.
Inspectors should have found a lot of those things that.
Could have been avoided. Could have been avoided. And you know, this deal with the road and all that, that's on top of everything else. Yes, we signed off, we bought these houses, and we're taking care of it. We're trying to keep the city looking good. But we can't do the roads. And Mr. Mayor, I believe you got the power to be able to make it happen.
So if our roads, public roads, because they don't, according to this, belong to the city, they're considered private roads, right?
So they're dedicated.
Until they're dedicated. So,
Dedicated.
And the dedication is accepted.
sorry,
And the dedication is accepted. That's what's missing.
so if we're living on private roads, what's the point of us being in the city of Salem?
There's a lot of property served by private roads, but not the Hallmark.
There's a lot of
There's a lot of properties that are serviced by private roads all over.
Yeah, but most people knew they would have private roads when
Are
they
they
bought.
within city limits?
Yeah, within city limits.
We've talked to some of those people that live on private roads, but they knew their roads were private. We our roads were public.
Yeah, we would throw that.
I can't speak to what was or was not said during your, about your property.
Let's forget the past and move on. Let's just move on. Let's get it accepted. Let's get the roads done. You've got the power to do it. Take a vote. You got the power to do it. And whatever legal aspects are necessary, I'm sure you know about to get that. So let's do it.
If you can't, then we need to put our houses up for sale.
Okay, we also had the TSPLOST. Is there any public comment on the TSPLOST?
can I ask, I have one more
I'm
point.
sorry.
Whether,
You sign into, hey, hate to sidetrack you.
don't take 5 minutes. Whether you're legally obligated to do anything about this situation, I think on the bottom level is immaterial. What's right and wrong is what matters here. Something has been done wrong to all the residents of this subdivision. And something needs to be done about it. We don't just need, like you told them, you were gonna get answers. We don't need answers, we need solutions. There's a difference between answers and solutions. Do you understand?
I think most solutions that would be.
Well,
It wasn't
solutions
accepted.
that will work for everybody. We need to somehow work together to get a solution that will work. I don't know what the answer is to that, but it's not just, we can't do anything. I've met a few of you, and I respect you guys. And, I hope that you guys can work together to help out here instead of just push it off. I appreciate it, your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Stewart?
Seaward. I live over in Beacon Park, 1950 Lennox Drive. I went over, the neighbors all got together. We started talking about our tax bills for 2023. And to me, it was misleading the way it was in the paper. It says a 5% or a $5 increase. But what it doesn't say is that I'm sure everybody's property value has gone up in Statham like ours has over there. So it doesn't state that it's going up. Whatever that tax and that appraisal value increase is, plus that $5 for a $225,000 home. So what it is just in Beacon Park, the 10 houses in Beacon Park, the average city tax increase is 48% from 22-23. That's why we need to roll back. We need to compare. I couldn't hear what you were saying up here. You were talking that way, so you may have covered part of this stuff, I don't know. And I also checked 10 other houses around. I did a couple downtown, a couple out of town in subdivisions, and the other 10 that I checked, they were up 41% on the tax base. That's 20 homes from 32% to 51.7% was the difference in range that everybody's taxes were going up in the city of those 20 houses. So I'm sure everyone has the same problem that we're gonna. And to me, you should be looking at the 2022 value of all the homes that you tax compared to the 2023 value of homes that you tax. And we shouldn't be going up over 5%, because a lot of us are on fixed incomes and are retired. I mean, gas is going up, food is going up. We can't afford 48% city tax income tax. Property tax increase. Because our county tax is going up, we all know that. The schools need more money. So we want you to roll it back to the max is the 3.265, I believe. But compare that would still put my tax up 15.6% at that rollback price. I'd be going from $251 I'd be paying to $291. That's a $40 increase at the lower rollback rate.
You did a copy of this?
Yeah, I did. I don't understand that.
Would you like her to read their rate?
Yeah, would y'all like me to recover what I covered earlier again?
What's that?
Would it be helpful if I covered what I covered earlier again?
Yeah, I can go over with you, so we don't have to tie the whole meeting up here. But if everybody's taxes, if everybody's state of taxes are going up, and I know you sent me an email on replying on the one that I sent out, said you're not voting for any tax increase. But if you go with the 4.06 millage rate, it's a tax increase, one way or another. Even if it's caused by the property value increase. So we need to roll back. But yes, if you would, face us back this way, so maybe we can hear and understand.
If it pleases the council, that's your desire.
Well, this example, I believe, is based on his property, am I correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That's
Because I passed on to her what you sent me and the council.
Yeah, and that's exactly the way that I explained it to you that day, was what she came back and said that's the way it's gonna happen. But we can't say we're increasing $5 when property values are increasing, and it's gonna be increasing more. The people don't know about it. They don't realize that.
And what we do advertise is what the state requires, because there's no way we could advertise for every single individual property in the city.
Well, no, that's why I'm saying we took an average.
We could separate that $225,000 into that average, and that's what we use to advertise, and everybody has to kind of take that into consideration of their own value. But we certainly don't have any, discretion over what the market value is either. There is an appeal process that goes through if you believe that value of the increase on your property value isn't correct. But this council doesn't have any discretion over that portion of your increase that you're referring to. The only portion we have discretion over is the 42 cents a month increase that you're going to experience due to the millage rate change.
Correct. I explained that at the meeting too. was property value in 2022, taxable property value that we get money from the city, or city tax, property tax, compared to 23?
So I'd like to, I would like to speak to this particularly if you did get a copy of it, and I know you couldn't hear what I was saying, but, you can see from this, graph that the CPI, the Consumer Price Index, so what the city is required to pay for goods and services has increased 28%. You have benefited greatly since 2015 because they have continued to reduce the millage rate.
No,
And
no,
what
my
they-
taxes
that's not
went
what
up
they
every
should
year.
have done. It's easier if you kind of keep it a rate steady rather than fluctuating up and down. And that's what we've advised here, this year. But this is not sustainable. And so what might impact you for $5.09 impacts the city at $100,000. And that is going to impact every single person in this room because we're going to have to reduce service levels in order to accommodate that. So we have to make a very difficult decision, weigh those two, and say, okay, what can we do? And we feel like we've prepared the best solution for that.
So we should not be advertising them, that we're going up $5 on a $225,000 house.
But that's exactly what we're doing.
No, you're not. It's going up more than that because their property value increased.
You're assuming that $225,000 house was $100,000 last year.
I got the proof right here. Everybody in our neighborhood.
I'm sorry, I can't address every single person's market value.
You just told me you had the 23 figures and the 22 figures. That should tell you the difference of the whole city. Property value. You should be able to figure that out.
Oh, yeah, certainly we know how much the digest changes in terms of reassessment, but that's not an individual parcel. That is a accumulation of all the parcels in the city. I don't know how to explain that.
Where's all the extra money on the taxes going through this year, Mr. Lester?
Extra money?
Yeah, the 47% increase in taxes, where's all that money going to be utilized at?
Well, for one, it's gonna fund for public safety, for public works, we definitely.
How about some road pavement in there?
So we did go through a budget development process, and there was a hearing for that, where citizens could speak to the budget that was prepared. That was an opportunity to address what services would be provided.
You got a landfall in tax money this year, a major landfall throughout the county. Everybody is getting a pocket full of money that they never anticipated they were gonna get. It's $150-something thousand in the city of Salem alone.
I would argue that,
What are we gonna do with that money? And don't start giving me all this other stuff. What can we do with that money?
I can help answer some of that. I can help answer some of that. So we went through 3 budget hearings. And we discussed what was going to be in this year's budget. And when we did that, we included projects that included some roads. Now, the city is just like everybody else. There's no special place where we can purchase things that we get it cheaper than everybody else. So when inflationary costs increase, and I'm not making excuses because I'm looking at putting a tax increase on myself here, but as inflationary costs increase, we as a city incur that as well. And when I say city, I don't mean just the council, all of us. Now, we've had years of, for instance, when I come into office, we had years and years where things not necessarily got put at the forefront. Roads and the parks and water and sewer and infrastructure and so forth. And we're playing a lot of catch up right now as a city. And we're going to be continuing to play a lot of catch up for quite some time. I know that there's truly a lot of heated discussion about Oak Springs, and I understand. I've talked with Frank very recently about Oak Springs and the subdivision and the roads. We discussed some of my frustrations with a city alleyway that floods my property and my neighbor's property. There's a lot of issues that we truly are dealing with, And part of the money that looks like a major increase is controlled by the county's tax assessors, not the city. You know, as was spoken by Alan tonight, yes, your property taxes are going up. A good portion of that's based upon what the county tax assessors has assessed your property at, including ours as well. And while your property tax for Statham is going to increase some tremendously because of the county tax assessments, and your property values are increasing based upon fair market value. It's because of that, yes, you're also going to have your property in Statham increase as well. So that naturally is going to increase your total tax bill. What we're discussing with this millage is to increase it another roughly $5.13 on the $225,000. It's very difficult to swallow that whenever you do have a large tax bill come in. I know when I first moved here back in 2018, I moved here and downsized because I wanted a smaller house and I wanted a lower tax rate. And it stayed that way for a while. I think I was paying $800 and some odd dollars. Don't quote me on that, but I think I was something along those lines whenever I first moved here in 18. And then it steadily has went up as the market value here has went up. So some of the costs that comes out of this property tax that we're talking about and the increases are going just to fund the stuff that we already are doing. You know, I'll give you a perfect example of some of the things that we have to deal with as a council. Our police department. We're now getting a 24-hour, 7 days a week, 365 police department. We also have a dog that is used for drugs and tracking, and some of you probably seen what happened at the schools today. That's what we're trying to do, is protect, and that costs us money. But also, whenever we hire these officers and we set a rate of pay, cities around us increase their pay. And to stay competitive as a city, just like a business, we have to increase our rate of pay as well. So that also is costing more money as we go along. The same thing with our police cars. For years, nobody replaced our police vehicles. They were driving the old Crown Vics with a lot of miles on them. We had to fund that. That's costing us more money. Same thing with our public works. We had trucks that were breaking down constantly. Some of the equipment they used was old and it was breaking down. And much like you were talking about tonight with the roads costing so much money, the city did not have necessarily the funds to do everything it needed to do and still buy this equipment, so we had to finance it. So that's ongoing as we pay for these vehicles, as we pay for the maintenance on these things, and as we have bought new equipment for the Public Works Department as well. We have had to finance those, so we pay that every year. I drive the same roads. It drives me nuts. I promise you it does. When I drive through here and you see the potholes and you hit them, and every time it rains, it seems to get worse. I promise you, we're well aware of that. And that's really what we're trying to do, is try to get enough money in here to sustain what we have, and also get some of these projects that haven't been done over the years to get them done. And if we cut out this increase in our millage, we're going to have to cut $100,000 on our budget. I'm not sure where that would come from without cutting some major service. And honestly, if we're looking at the possibility of having the future of taking on more roads, we're going to need that increase in that revenue. So hopefully that explains a little bit of why we're trying to increase this millage rate and get this extra funds in there, because I don't like increasing taxes. I don't like increasing fees. We sit up here and beat heads, over fee increases all the time. And I don't think anybody really enjoys that. I truly don't. For years, working in government, I sit back and listen to a commission talk about raised taxes. And it would infuriate me because there I go again. What little bit of cost of living increase I got was going to taxes. But I do have an understanding that when we have to increase this millage rate, it is for a reason, to keep our services that we currently have running as the cost of living increases, as inflationary costs go up. But certainly if we're ever going to consider as a city on doing any improvements over and above what we already have, we have seriously got to look at a tax increase. And we haven't done that in 4 years since I've been here. 3 years. This will be my 4th year.
We've been rolling back every year.
It's been 8 years, in the last 8 years, you've not had any increase.
Every year for 8 years.
Gary, would you talk about the TSPLOST? You explained to me, excuse me, you and I talked about that and the importance of it. Yeah, it's another tax increase, but it's what, 1%, 1 penny per dollar, is that right?
Yes, sir. As I understand it, that's what would be put on the ballot.
Current tax, sales tax within the state of Millage is 8 now?
We're at 7.
It's 7 now.
Yes, sir.
We'll make it 8. And that 1%, that's countywide, correct?
It would be,
Yeah.
yes, sir,
When it's voted on in November.
if it's approved.
And, that 1%, I believe, Scott, you said it would amount to maybe 800 and something thousand?
I think 800
Just for the city, right?
thousand per year. Yeah,
Just for the
that's
city.
what percentage we get out of the county.
Okay.
Because the
So,
county takes that and just divvies it up by city and.
by population, okay, so that 800 and something thousand approximately would come to state.
Yes, sir.
So, with us as citizens, we go out and buy groceries, pay gas, whatever, we're paying 8% instead of 7%.
Correct.
Paying a penny extra as we buy these services and goods and whatnot as we go along. If that TSPLOST is not passed, where does that apply to?
Well, the TSPLOST doesn't exist for the city at the moment, so those funds aren't rolled into our revenues. So the projected increase if TSPLOST passed for Statham is somewhere in the neighborhood of $800,000, let's just say. And if the city got those revenues would be put into the budget, and then they would be expended.
In what areas?
They would be.
On roads.
Go in a special fund, because the only thing we could use it for is for road improvement.
That's
Resurfacing.
Yes, sir.
Right.
separate from the SPLOST.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And we couldn't,
The SPLOST money, 100% for the last, I believe, 15 years, our SPLOST money that we get, and that's another penny,
Right.
that's what puts us at 7, okay? The city has expended that into a sewer bond.
Right.
We cannot use it for anything but that sewer bond.
How long has that been ongoing?
It's 15 years, and at the current rate, we will pay it off in 33.
20.
And that's something we'll discuss later. It's on the next agenda.
And I just wanted to kind of dumb down that TSPLOST because I wasn't, I think a lot of people like me, they don't understand all of it.
Just remember, T for transportation.
Exactly. Strictly for building roads or maintaining roads, period.
Yeah, well, it's actually, a lot of the roads are being built by, and I know this is gonna pick a scab, the developers, okay? When they put in a housing project, they tie the roads into the city roads, okay? Every year, I have to put together the mileage for our road system. it's approximately 23.9 miles of city road system. That's what our LMAP money is based on. And last year, we got 40,000, roughly 500, and that's already committed to doing the small project at Hammond Road. This year, we're slated to get 41,600. That is promised to do building now. We gotta come up with the other 300,000 to do that job. Then we're also slated for the fiscal '24 to get approximately 43,000 in some odd dollars. And that can only be used for road improvements. So, but that's grant money. The money that you paid in the taxes that the state was held, and now they're gonna graciously give it back to us in the form of.
But if this is not passed, what would that mean to our property taxes?
Well, certainly, in my opinion, TSPLOST would go a long ways to help paving roads, resurfacing roads, doing road improvements, because what ends up happening is our operating budget that comes pretty much out of fees and property taxes that goes into our general fund. What happens is that money will go to, for instance, our public works department, helps pay for our police department, that sort of thing. TSPLOST should generate money that we can use towards roads so that we're not having to cut another budget to put money into a road. Or you can look at it as we can maintain what we currently have without having to cut it, the police department, our public works, and so forth. And then the TSPLOST money would go towards improving our roads. So, in my opinion, I would love to see, to use this money to the roads that are broken and busted to get those fixed. But in order to do that right now, since we don't have TSPLOST, we would have to find it out of our general fund. And in order to do that, let's say Atlanta Highway, the cost that was thrown around tonight was 1.2, 1.3 million. Well, obviously we don't have that in our general fund to do that. It's a lot of money that would come out of there. And so how do you get it done? You would either have to do tax increase on property values, or you would have this TSPLOST, which, $800,000 would not cover it all in one sitting, but over the course of a couple of years, it should cover the cost of the $1.2, $1.3 million.
This is for a 5-year term?
Yes.
Is that correct? Yes. So after every 5 years as he left, there comes another vote, the citizens want to continue to review it. It seems like a good clause.
So to put this in perspective, and I think piggyback off of what Council Brown said, we recently had to redo Hayes Lake. Hayes Lake Road at the entrance where the Texaco is, they probably fixed it 5 times. 4 in my time as mayor. So we had to bring in a company. Most of the work was done by our city workers, but we still had to bring in a company to do the paving. So it was torn down, about 12, 14 inches down, and rebuilt and put back the way that it should have been. That little stretch was $28,000, and that came out of the taxpayers' pocket. Had we had the TSPLOST, that small project, and along with maybe 10 other small projects, could have all been done in 1 year. And correct me if I'm wrong, our TSPLOST would be paid quarterly, I believe. It's collected and paid to the cities. Is it quarterly?
I'd have to clarify that, but I believe quarterly.
How's the SPLOST done?
SPLOST is done monthly.
Okay, then it would probably be on a monthly basis. So, if you had those monies coming in and we say, okay, Hayes Lake needs to be taken care of, the money would be there, because it would have to be in a special fund that could only be used for that purpose. And it would have to be voted on by the 5 members of this county, or me as the mayor, to execute that.
I understand. I think it was you, Gary, that made the point that it's not the best idea to designate certain roads to use that money for, because restricts you strictly to that if you had, if there was something else that came a priority above what you designated for a rate.
Yes, sir.
If we said, hey, we're gonna do Dooley Canal, and it comes out and it was 600,000, and we only got 400,000, we can get it done, so.
So who is that discretion about, let's say you don't designate the roads and the money's there, who designates where that money goes? Which roads? How does that work?
Us with the help of Public Works, pretty much.
I think you would determine which are the worst roads first.
Yeah.
We've already put a list together of,
As a council and mayor?
well, Public Works, and it was presented.
And let me also add that any road project the city wanted to engage in, the bidding of that would still be subject to the financial policy, meaning they'd have to get bids, and there would have to be a very public process for approving said contract. So, basically, it's budget process every year, kind of reassess what roads we want to do in what year, and then sometime within that calendar year, you go through the bidding process and whatever.
Something that I've also learned about roads, because I was on the transportation committee with the county, is that when the roads were built years and years ago, they weren't built for the traffic that we have put on them now. And that's why you see them breaking down the way they are. And so to go back, we're going to have to go back and dig deeper and fix them so that they will be able to withstand the wear and tear that we're putting on them now. That's just another thought to think about.
You know, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Maybe you can clarify this for me, but I thought that Atlanta Highway and 211,
They're not state roads.
they're not state.
No, the state turned that over to the city
Turned it over to us.
years ago. Now, from where you turn coming into town at the Dollar General to the light, coming in Bethlehem Road is state. That little stretch to the light is state, and all the way through town is state. And everything on each side of that is the city to the county line, Oconee County and Barrow County line.
And just one other quick thing about TSPLOST. It's been said a couple of times tonight, I think, but everybody that comes through here and shops pays that. So it's not just hitting the citizens of Statham as a burden. Even those that may not, report all their income, so to speak, when they shop, they're going to be paying that penny, and it's going to come back into the city to share, the burden with the rest of us when we pay that penny as citizens. So, to me, it's always debatable on what's the fairest tax, but to me, personally, it seemed like a very good way to increase the city income without having to just put it directly back on the citizens of Statham.
It's shared.
Yeah, I mean, if you go by gas station, all that penny is going to get shared with the whole county somehow. So it's more of a fair tax.
No further comment or questions, I would ask to get a motion to go out of the public hearing.
Well, can I say one thing about the tax increase? Follow up what Gary was talking about. Our police department is very important to us. The 24-hour, 7 days a week, 365. We saw today and I'm kind of touched because my grandson was at Winder Barrow High School, and they had 3 men enter the school today with guns. Yeah, there was a total lockdown. So, yeah, the kids were safe. They got them out. They allowed them, but to see the response of the police department and the first responders. And the importance of having a police presence there that can get there in a timely manner is so important. And we got a elementary school and a middle school right here, and it's so important that our police officers, and I want to thank the captain for everything he does, that we keep this 24/7, because you don't know when it's going to hit home. You think that we live in this quiet community, it's never going to hit you, and it can at any time. And so I understand the tax, you know, you can be upset about the tax increase, but to me, it's going for the good of the city. And I think everybody's going to benefit off of that and keep us safe.
I'm so sorry.
No, thank you.
Motion to adjourn. Second? Second. All those in favor? Okay. Let's take a real quick break. I got to set up for the next meeting, so take a few minutes here.
And for anybody that's leaving, thank y'all for coming. It's always nice to see